And welcome everybody to we'll call it a balmy late fall afternoon here at Council Bluffs, Iowa for the NJCAA semifinal matchup between the number 2 seed Iowa Western Reavers and the number 3 seed Kilgore College Rangers. Both teams dealing with the elements today. Logan Anderson here with Gary Thomas. And Gary, we should have a great game today.
We should, and you are right. The weather will be a factor, and we will find out which one of these is more equipped to handle it.
These two teams have never met in their program's history. Iowa Western is 2-0 against teams from the state of Texas, both actually against Trinity Valley Community College. Kilgore has won 6 in a row to get to this point, and they've scored 37-plus points per game during that stretch. So they've been a dynamic offense, and on the other hand, Iowa Western, a very dynamic defense.
And if you know the history of either program and a little bit of history between the two conferences, the Iowa Western versus the Texas League was from an old scheduling agreement that has now been replaced with the Jayhawk Conference. And Kilgore doing it with a backup quarterback last week, which is impressive in and of itself.
Chris Baldazzo getting ready to kick deep to L.J. Fitzpatrick. Also back there is Joshua Pierre-Louis. Two dynamic players talking with head coach Scott Strohmeyer. He said he hasn't used them back there throughout the year all that much, but win or go home time, looking to make some big plays on special teams potentially. Baldazzo to boot it away. It's fielded by the up man. A little bit of room, bounces off, reversing field, and taking that back was Jack Wadier. Crosses the 30, and that's where the drive will start.
Iowa Western did win the toss and elected to take the ball. A lot of people, probably more than not, would choose to defer there, play in the second half, especially with weather too. But Coach Strohmeyer chose to take the ball, and let's see what they can do with it.
As we mentioned, weather could be a factor. About 37 degrees out here today in Council Bluffs. Probably 10-mile-per-hour winds. As Hunter Watson takes the first snap, he'll hand it off. And Williams charges up for, that was Jonathan Humpel, charges forward for 9 yards on the first down.
Yeah, nothing fancy there. That was just straight inside zone, and Iowa Western displaced that entire line of scrimmage. Watson,
a quick handoff once again, didn't need much, enough to pick up the first down. Humpel again. Jonathan Humpel, 5'10", freshman from here in Council Bluffs, Iowa. In fact, played his home games at Lewis Central High School, where this game is being played today. So he has come in for Bryant Williams, who got injured a couple games back. We expect to see him today. But Humpel doing just fine early that time, cuts up and runs right into Kawan Robinson, who squeezes and refuses to let go.
3 straight runs to open it. Now that second down one, it was 2nd and 1. They chose to hurry up and just go ahead and get the first down, catch Kilgore off guard. Ran a one-back power. Tried to mix it up there and 2 inside runs and mixed in an outside run, and good penetration by the defensive tackle for Kilgore.
A loss of 1 sets up 2nd down and 11. First pass of the game, complete to the outside. Fitzpatrick makes a couple guys miss, loses a shoe, and gains 4 or 5. There's a little bit of words exchanged on the outside. Looks like a combination of Wilburn Smallwood and a couple friends made the stop.
That was an RPO, more commonly known as a run-pass option. But they had a 2-on-1, kind of a stacked formation here to the field, and they had numbers. So when you're 2-on-1, you pull the ball, you throw it out there, and see if your athlete can make a play in space.
Fitzpatrick in motion. And they pass it over the middle. It is complete for a first down. Navian Cargill, the tight end, leaks over the middle and comes up with a short gain.
And you can tell there that was a game design. That is probably not a base play in their offense. You can say they have certain plays that they've designed of stuff they felt confident with. That was a 3rd and 5. They got to match up across the middle to convert.
This time keeping it for the first time, the nimble Watson, who falls forward, takes a big shot from behind, but holds on to the ball. That is maybe the one Achilles heel for Watson. He's had a little bit of a case of the dropsies with 5 lost fumbles throughout the year, but did a great job there.
I had a chance to watch him live in the opening game of the year at Dodge City, and tough competitor, threw the ball adequately. But he does run the ball, and he does run hard.
Tries the deep ball, complete for a Reaver touchdown. Latrell Bonner from 37 yards out.
In case you were wondering, Scott Strohmeyer is one of the best football coaches in the country, and one of the best play designers and game preparation X and O guy that you'll ever be around, and we got to see that on full display on that opening drive.
Bonner wide open and just waltzes in for Bonner. His 4th touchdown reception of the year. Somebody jumps the gun on the extra point. And it's on the offense. Guilty party, Braxton Martin. So the extra point will move back 5 yards.
That was on the snapper. Probably rocked the football or something for it to be a snap infraction.
Max Bartacek, 35 of 40 on extra points. It's been effective, but not quite automatic, but he makes that one. It's 7-0 to start things off. And we'll take a timeout. We'll be back after this. I can barely hear you.
I can barely hear you.
Kickoff, and they finish with a first drive touchdown and lead by 7. They'll kick it off. And that sails to Zeke Freeman, taking it down the left side, showing some speed. Ball comes out. Looks like the Reavers have it. And right there to scoop it up, Clem McCullough from Elgin, Illinois, and the first big mistake of the game, Gary.
Yeah, I'm going to guess we maybe get a booth review here. That was right on Kilgore's sideline, though, and they don't seem to be up in arms about it. So it maybe legitimately was a fumble. We haven't seen a replay pop up yet. But that was about as bad as bad of a start as Kilgore could have imagined. I do see someone's communicating with the white hat here. You can see he's got somebody in his ear. But it does appears that at least for now that's going to stand. The thing about the cold weather is, especially dry cold weather, is it does dry your skin out and it dries the leather of that football out and does make it actually as slippery as it would be in wet outdoor conditions. And that's something that people don't, generally know. On warm days, you're inside, you're not outside playing football. But, having done this for so long, is there is a high tendency for fumbling on dry, cold days in an environment like we have right now.
The ruling on the field stands after review, so great field position for Watson and Iowa Western. They'll hand off to Humple. He charges up the gut for a couple before taken down. But, again, they're getting positive gains on just about every first down.
Yeah, and that's what Iowa Western does. They've, since their inception, and I've been on the bad end of a lot of these as a college football coach, playing against Coach Strohmeyer and Iowa Western, is they're always big and physical up front. They always have the ability to run the football, and they're showing that early.
Play action. Watson flushed out, just steps back. Now on the run, he'll hold on, flinging it deep, and it is complete to Fitzpatrick at the 2. A lot of flags. You like to think that when they're running around that much, you might see a hold. But we'll wait for the official interpretation. What did you see?
Well, they already signaled it's going to be a legal man downfield.
So a first and goal brought back.
I would have agreed with you had I not seen him signal it. That generally is where a hold would have been called, especially with a quarterback running around like that. But, yeah, sometimes those linemen, especially when they turn around and they see the quarterback, he was very close to pulling that down, and I think he would have ran for a minute, which would have negated the penalty. But since he did pull it at the last second and throw it, they had to throw the flag.
L.J. Fitzpatrick has battled injuries throughout this year, but talking to their coaching staff, he has come back, he is healthy, and we are already seeing the type of impact he can have. That was brought back, but we'll see. Now 2nd down and 12. Back to the 37. They set up a screen to the outside. Humple makes one guy miss, but slowed down enough that no one is able to do much. Patterson makes the stop. It's 3rd and long now.
Yeah, that was just kind of a quick, there's slow tailback screens, there's quick tailback screens. That was on the quicker version. They didn't pull. Usually get 3 linemen pulling out there up front. There they just kind of pulled out one. Again, probably a game-time design. They knew they were going to get maybe one overhanged player out there, let the defensive end get upfield, get a kick out from either that guard or tackle that releases, and almost like a counter, but a screen really.
And they'll basically try a similar screen. It's complete, not much room. Maybe enough to make Coach Strohmeyer and company think about going for it on 4th down. Jordan Johnson collected that one. It's 4th down and 10. Only a gain of 1 or 2 and an injured player down on the field.
Yeah, that was just a slip screen there to the outside receiver to the short side. That was trying to get back, I think, a chunk of that 3rd and 12. Put yourself into a position where you're probably nowhere near, especially in these conditions, probably nowhere near field goal range. I'm going to guess anything in the 45-yard range is probably, although going this direction, you got the wind to your back, but that's still a long field goal in these conditions. In a situation like that, you're trying to get back half of it, put yourself into a 4th and 6 maybe, and make it a more reasonable opportunity to try to convert that 4th down.
Max Bartachek is 7 of 16 on field goals with a long of 45, so probably right at about the very edge of his range. And he's up walking off under his own power. That's Damian Dunn.
And they've got the offense trotting out, so we're going to get our first 4th down attempt of the day.
4th and 10 from the Kilgore 35. Iowa Western, if they could have scripted this, couldn't have got off to a much better start, but a chance for Kilgore here. Watson is going to be sacked from behind. Corian Francis in the backfield.
Great recovery by Kilgore there
that was Chris Robinson, 21, not 12.
To offset that fumble. That fumble could have been, if Iowa Western gets any points there, you find yourself down, 2 scores 6 minutes into the game. That was just an edge blitz, though. That Will Backer came off the edge. He was one-on-one. The tailback was there to pick it up. He just got flat bull rushed straight back into the quarterback.
So this is our first chance to see the explosive Kilgore College offense led by Tyler Webb here for the 2nd straight game. I expect we'll see a lot of Caden Meredith in the backfield. As I say that, we see Dominique Williams lining up. They'll give to Williams. No, they fake to Williams. Webb wants to keep it himself to the outside and gets a positive gain on 1st.
Yeah, it came out. We used to call that personnel group 3F, but it's really kind of an 11 personnel. They've got a fullback, H-back, tight end type body in there. with 3 wide receivers. That was a zone read, and then they brought that backside H kind of out there to block the force player. Got a pull read from the quarterback, and you get a blocker out front. So, good play design. And, 2nd and 7, we'll talk about it probably as throughout the game, but always staying ahead of the sticks and putting yourself in favorable play call situations is important.
This time they give to Williams, and he takes a cut, pushes the pile. 3rd down and short, crosses midfield. And a whole squad of Reavers led by Ahmad Johnson makes the stop, and a big 3rd down upcoming.
That snap was a little off the mark a little bit. Quarterback did a good job handling it. They're spending a lot of time blowing on their hands, trying to keep them warm, which I absolutely understand right now. But, you've got a warm weather team up here in the tundra, and not as bad as it'll be this winter, but it is not exactly warm outside.
They'll give to Williams. He is taken down in the backfield. A loss of yards. Jalen Pettis shoots the gap. And it's a loss of yardage. And decision time now for Willie Gooden, the 5th-year coach for Kilgore.
Yeah, I personally, I don't have any skin in the game, nor can I get fired for bad decisions, but I would punt this football here and make Iowa Western go, 70 or 80 yards to score on me, or I would hard count here.
Offense is on the field. They'll snap it. Play action. Pass is complete to the outside. Zeke Freeman with the catch for the 1st down, and that's why he makes the decisions knowing
that's why Coach Gooden is getting paid the big bucks. Good play call. They play actioned it. Just, a nice simple out on the outside. The thing about Iowa Western, and it's frustrating it from a coaching standpoint, is they don't do a lot on defense. They just kind of line up. They're usually in the same spot. They're very formationally based. If you get into a certain formation, they're almost always going to line up that way. Don't mix up a lot of coverages. Don't bring a lot of pressure until you get deep in their territory. And you see it, but it's still difficult to.
Webb wants to run, makes a couple guys miss, but is swarmed by black and blue jerseys.
And to finish my thought there is, Iowa Western traditionally, over 10, 15 years now, they just line up. They're I don't want to say they're basic, but they're sound, but they just don't do a lot. They line up, and you know where they're going to be. It's just difficult. They've got good football players. They recruit well, and the success that they've been able to sustain over a long period of time obviously speaks volumes.
A loss of 4. 2nd and 14, and immediately under pressure. Webb running for his life, lets it fly incomplete. Did a good job just to get rid of it. I think the Reavers coaching staff asking for a holding call, not getting the flag. And it's 3rd and long for Kilgore. One of the matchups to watch will be the Kilgore wide receivers with a lot of talent. Michael Phoenix, Zeke Freeman against the corners. Legend Doggett and Joshua Pierre-Louis.
And in the interviews, both coaches actually did talk about the Iowa Western secondary a little bit. Coach Stromer actually felt that was kind of the strength of his defense when we were talking to him, is they had some talent on the back end. And Coach Gooden did mention that he thought they were pretty sound on the back end of their defense as well.
Also a great pass rush and just able to get rid of it. We'll see. Was there a receiver in the neighborhood who was outside of the tackle box? No flags for the moment. Incomplete. But look at that pass rush. That was Clev Lubin, who has 10 sacks on the year. Didn't get one there, but making his presence felt.
That's 3 straight snaps with half of the Iowa Western defense deep in the backfield, and if I'm Kilgore, that's got to be a concern for me and something that needs to be addressed, because they are just pinning their ears back and doing whatever they want there in the backfield.
Baldazzo the punt, and a couple bounces. Iowa Western gets away from it. Pierre Lewis, and that takes us to a break. 5:55 to go here in the first. 7-0 Reavers. We'll be back here on ESPN Plus after this. 37-yard strike from Hunter Watson to Latrell Bonner. At this point, the only score here this afternoon. As after that punt, Iowa Western starting with the ball on their own 5. 95 yards to go for Hunter Watson and company. He hands off to Humple, and he breaks it to the outside. It's a foot race at midfield. Still to the 20. Afterburners on in a 95-yard run from Jonathan Humple.
Well, I was going to wait till that play was over to share that this is going to be an important drive here for Kilgore. For the simple fact that, you got them backed up on your 5, which is why you punted the football, and you're in a situation where if you can get a 3 and out, after the punt, you probably get the ball back at about midfield with an opportunity to tie this football game up. And you want to talk about a giant momentum swing and a heartbreaker here. That was a backbreaker for Kilgore.
7th touchdown of the year for Humple. A one-play, 95-yard drive. And didn't really look like anything overly complex, just
no, it was
great
inside,
up-front blocking and turns on the Jets.
Yeah, inside zone. I think they doubled the down guy in the middle, and the rest is history.
Bardachek's extra point parts the pipes, and it's now 14-0, 5:41 to go. We'll take a timeout and be back at the NJCAA semifinals after this. The defending champs trying to get back to the championship game, where the winner of this game will take on East Mississippi, and Iowa Western off to a great start here in the first quarter. 2 big plays as Jonathan Humple took that inside zone handoff 95 yards, outran the entire speedy Kilgore defense. And now Iowa Western will kick off once more. We'll see if special teams can come through. Trying it to the outside, and they keep the ball this time, but no room as Melvin Polk with a modest return.
Yeah, you couldn't have drawn up a better situation to start this football game for Iowa Western, and a worse situation for Kilgore. And as bad as they are, as bad as it feels to be down 14-0, they also fumbled, and Iowa Western had a third opportunity that this thing could be 17 or even 21-0.
They almost had the ball 1st and goal from the 3. It was brought back for a penalty. This is a big drive for Kilgore. Webb hands off, and in the backfield once again, that was Meredith taking the handoff. And a couple different Reavers back there, and leading the way, big 99 Capri Wilson. And right now we're seeing problems blocking that big defensive front.
Well, and that was just a counter, which, normally counters a safe play because it makes you gap sound. But what they did is they took the backside defensive end, and he ran the heel line, which we call it, and he basically just tracked that tackle as the puller and ran it down from behind. They weren't reading it, so you're a guy short if you can get a guy to run the heel line.
And that was batted down. It's picked up and ran in. I think that will be incomplete. No, they say touchdown. So they call it a fumble. Recovered and ran in for a touchdown by the Reavers.
I do believe we'll get a review here.
As it stands, that's a touchdown for Joshua Pierre Lewis, who has 6 interceptions on the year. We'll watch this.
They just overruled it. They just called it incomplete. That was probably close, but there's no way that receiver was 6 yards deep on the now screen. But the theme to this whole thing is Iowa Central is lights out right now on defense, and Kilgore's got some problems on their hands if they can't find some answers.
3rd down and 13.
you're now in a drop back pass situation here on 3rd and 13, and you haven't blocked them yet on any of your drop back pass downs.
There hasn't been time to get the ball to those talented receivers on the outside. This time they set one up to Meredith on a little screen. Solid tackling by Pierre Lewis. It's a completion for a yard or two, but
actually it was 3-yard loss.
3-yard loss, over optimistic. So 4th down and a long way, and Kilgore will have to punt.
And that is a byproduct of that last series of Iowa Western pinning their ears back and spending a significant amount of time in your backfield that you're, not wanting to put yourself in a worse situation on 3rd and 13 and turn it into a 4th and 18, and you get conservative and turn it into a 4th and 15 anyway. Now you got a guy punting in the wind. And in my opinion here, these two Iowa Western returners are too deep.
Chris Baldazzo, a big leg. And fair catch called for. And Iowa Western will get the ball back at the 45-yard line in their own territory. Change of possession. We'll take a timeout and be back after this here with the NJCAA semifinals. Total yardage doesn't always tell the story of the game, but right now Iowa Western 160-6, and it's telling the story pretty effectively. The ball's on the turf. Watson able to recover his own fumble after picking up a couple yards, but we talked about maybe the one Achilles heel for Hunter Watson, who's been really good most of the year, both running and passing, can get a little loose with the football, but able to get his own fumble back.
Yeah, and the unique part about that was such a good play design that the tackler that forced the fumble was the the only defensive player within about an 8-yard radius, so he was allowed to get up off of the ground, still run and gain yards after he picked up his own fumble.
They run it with him once again, and Chris Robinson, Vincent Page also in around the play. 3rd down and 2 for Iowa Western. We've seen a bunch of big plays for them. They're known for being a little more deliberate this year anyway. Had more of a traditionally explosive offense last season when they won it all. This time they pass outside to Fitzpatrick. Dances around. He'll have the 1st down and more before he's stopped by Wilburn Smallwood, defensive end, kind of getting back into the play. But enough to move the chains.
Yeah, and I don't know, they're in an empty look there, but they've got an extra lineman in, wearing 51, but he's playing more of a fullback H-back position, and I think they RPO'd that. It was kind of an outside zone for the quarterback and just a little flare.
Play action, all kinds of time, an open receiver, and a strike for a touchdown. Jordan Johnson from 40 yards out. And it's now 20-0. Kilgore struggling to find answers.
Answers anywhere. They've had a rough time so far on offense, a rough time on defense, and a rough time on special teams. And that is the triple threat of having a bad day.
For Jordan Johnson, his 4th touchdown reception of the year. 2nd toss of the game from Hunter Watson.
Coach Strohmeyer did talk a little bit in our call about some stuff that they had designed just for this game that was outside of their base offense, and that series in particular was a good example of that.
21-0. We'll take a timeout. We'll be back. We'll keep it right here, actually. And again, 21-0. You can talk a little bit about that formation you were seeing.
Yeah, it was an empty look, so you had no running back in the game, but you had the extra lineman in playing that fullback H-back position, and then a wide receiver playing a version of the running back, although he wasn't traditionally lined up as a tailback. So, they ran the RPO with the outside zone with the quarterback and the little flare in the flat there with the wide receiver. Then they came back on that next one and, faked what looked like was going to be a sweep behind the quarterback, which quarterback then turned with his back turn. And, at that point, though, it was just a simple post from the outside receiver. And, every coverage, no matter what it is, cover 2, cover 3, quarters, whatever. If you run a guy deep enough down the field, it turns into man coverage. And the fact is that Iowa Western's guy just ran by Kilgore's guy.
Hunter Watson off to a great start. 7 for 7, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also 8 yards on the ground as the kick is going to be returnable. It kind of dies. Polk scoops it up, trying to make Reavers miss. He does not. Engulfed by Reaver special teamers and buried deep in their own territory as Swift with the tackle.
We talked about in the break that, very rarely in college football do you get 4 possessions in a quarter. Iowa Western has had 4 possessions, and there's still 2 minutes left in the quarter. They may get a 5th if they can get off the field here in a 3-and-out.
Iowa Western nicknames their defense the Dark Side, playing the Imperial March here at the stadium. Nice touch by the game operations crew. Huge possession for Kilgore. There's a lot of game left to play. They have some very good players. They could get back into this, but can't dig yourself more of a hole as they'll hand it off, and a couple yards by Trey Epps getting the carry. Gain of 3, but the offensive line got a little push that time.
And that's the important part is again, staying ahead of the sticks. For Kilgore, it's going to have to be, you're not going to big play your way back into this game. And you'll never big play yourself against Iowa Western long enough to beat them. It's got to be systematic at this point. They've got to convert. They've got to keep moving, positive yardage.
Webb keeps it himself and runs into the pile.
And even that, that's a quiet 2.5-yard gain, but now you're sitting here 3rd and 4, and that's a manageable distance to try to convert. And where Iowa Western finds success year over year over year is their philosophy is good for you. How many times can you do that? Can you do that 5, 6, 7 more times, convert those 3rd downs, and get yourself a touchdown? And then can you do it enough to score enough points to beat us? And generally the answer to that question over a long period of time now has been no.
3rd down and 4. Kilgore averages 322 pounds of beef per offensive lineman. They are big up front. Whistle blows and a timeout called.
And I was actually getting.
As they take a timeout, we'll take a timeout, and we'll be back right after this. No, we'll stay right here during the timeout.
I was actually getting ready to say, if I'm Coach Strohmeyer and they don't convert this and they run the football, I'm going to use the timeout here.
To have the wind?
Because the wind here is significant enough that I want that kid punting into the wind, and I want to take 1 or 2 shots here up 21-0 before that I have to throw into that wind and see if I just can't put this dagger in here, go ahead in the first quarter, and then put myself not necessarily into cruise control, because Kilgore is going to get the win here. Don't fool yourself that isn't a factor in being successful on offense. Is Kilgore may get a little something going here in the second quarter with that win in their back. It is easier to throw the football down the field. It's easier for receivers to run instead of, the wind is pushing you down the field instead of running into it. So you don't have to protect the quarterback as long to get receivers open further down the football field.
All 3 Reaver touchdowns have come from 37 yards or farther. Webb is blown up in the backfield. Ball's on the turf. It is scooped up and taken in for a Reaver touchdown. Clev Lubin, the Army transfer.
Well, not much to say there. That was just edge pressure. Well, actually, it wasn't even edge pressure. It was just their 4 down. That was the defensive end coming off the edge and smacking the quarterback right in the back of the head and knocking that ball loose. And Kilgore's got to find something here, or this thing's going to get ugly.
I couldn't quite see. Did Lubin make the hit and recover his own fumble?
That I don't know.
We'll get another look at it
replay here. I don't know if
the timeout, but once, and they confirmed the touchdown on review.
I couldn't tell if it was the end that hit the quarterback or if it was a linebacker off the edge.
And Bartacek knocks the extra point through. It is now 28-zip 43 seconds left in quarter number 1. And again, we'll see if Kilgore can come up with any kind of an answer. We talked about the size of their line. They just haven't been able to match the nimbleness, as we'll see this again. And the hit was applied by Zion Clark. Lubin scooped it up. And everything going the way of the Reavers, but as you mentioned, that wind will switch in 43 seconds. And Kilgore has some excellent wideouts, even if you can protect them long enough to just kind of throw up a jump ball.
I again, from a coaching standpoint, again, is generally how I analyze everything is, drop back pass for you has been nothing good has come so far from drop back pass. But they haven't bitten off chunks in the run game either here. So, maybe something in the screen game. I know they're looking for some answers, some misdirection, some play action, but they've got to get something going here.
Short pooch fielded by Polk. He'll try the outside across the 25 and is wrenched down by the Reavers. Wadier and Gray in on the stop. But again, they got 36 seconds to probably just take a run here and get the wind to switch for second down.
I mean, that's where I would be. I would have. They've got to do something again. Sometimes you don't start the game you want the way you want to. This is beyond that. This is literally in every phase of the game. Kilgore is just off to a rough start, and they've got to do something here to stabilize this thing.
Webb with the fake, and he is brought down from behind. Pettis in the backfield, almost as fast as Webb. Pettis on the year came into this with 6.5 sacks from his defensive end position. Almost, and I don't know if that'll technically count as a sack. I think he wanted to run that, but he was right there.
That's probably going to be a TFL for a defender and definitely a rush for loss, but won't go down as a sack.
2nd and 14, and that takes us to the end of what for Kilgore is a first quarter that they are hoping to forget quickly if they want to turn this around. We'll take a timeout and be back with the NJCAA semifinals after this. And we're back here in Council Bluffs where it is 28-0. And the yardage tells the story, 215-5, Iowa Western controlling this game in every facet. But Kilgore now with the win, they heave it downfield and they strike quickly. And tiptoeing the sideline, they say stepped out of bounds. That was Zeke Freeman. But we talked about the importance of that wind.
And a great throw and catch. And, for people at home and people that haven't been in it, you don't realize, you talk about in all honesty, the wind's not blowing very hard right now. It's blowing maybe 10 miles an hour. 10 miles an hour when you're throwing a football is a big deal. But more importantly, when you're a receiver and you're running into the wind, you are running slower. So it takes the offensive line, they have to protect longer for those receivers to get open down the football field. So that's why this shift here is monumental, and Kilgore might be finding something here.
And they'll hand off, try to get the running game going. Not much for Dominique Williams, but again, a 64-yard shot of adrenaline to the Rangers here, trying to climb back into this one.
And that's a great way to put it, because you can see just on that last snap the reinvigorated body movements of the Kilgore kids is they legitimately are playing harder. It was just a shot in the arm for them, and hopefully they can get some points here and make this thing a football game.
2nd down and 6, ball on the 13. And trying to pass nearly completed for a touchdown. Looking for Michael Phoenix, just a whisker high.
And Phoenix has kind of been their go-to guy, especially talking to Coach Gooden in the meetings over the week. Is he really felt strongly that was just kind of their, he felt strongly about the talent of their receiving core, top to bottom. But he kind of felt that was the guy that was just kind of their go-to guy when they needed something to happen. He was a guy that inevitably was just going to find a way to make a play.
Big third down. Webb under pressure. He'll release it. Finds Williams. Breaks a tackle in space. Close to a first down. I think they'll mark him a little bit short.
Yep, he's already signaled fourth down.
And I would assume at this point, if you're Coach Gooden, you're thinking down 28-0, field goals aren't going to do much good.
Yep.
Although there's a lot of time left, just starting the second quarter of play.
Yeah, this is a tough one. You want to put points, but knowing you're not going to catch them putting threes on the board. But you also know that if you don't convert this here, it's just going to be detrimental to the.
And they stay aggressive. They hand off. Williams.
And he's short.
It's pretty darn close. We'll see where the spot goes. You know it's close when each team pointing their way.
He looked short based on where that side judge was on the Kilgore sideline. But we are going to get a measurement.
We'll get our measurement, and the wind picking up a little bit here.
Wind is getting more aggressive. And so everybody knows we are not looking at the flags to make that determination. We are outdoors with them.
And a huge measurement coming up here for Kilgore. They come out, get a little jolt. And if they're able to convert here, have first and goal. It's short. Needed 2, got 1.5.
And that takes the wind right out of your sails there if you're Kilgore.
We'll take a break. We'll be back after this here on the NJCAA Semifinals. And after a turnover on downs, Iowa Western up by 4 touchdowns, trying to add to it. They'll go to the run game right out of the chute, pick up a couple. And Bryant Williams getting his first carry.
And that, again, that was just a simple, inside zone, but that was a safety that filled that at basically, a yard from the line of scrimmage. And this is where, again, Iowa Western's going to get those safeties to insert, and they're going to hit them big again. And the other problem is right there. If your safeties are involved that close to the line of scrimmage and you're having that much trouble stopping the run, it just takes one missed tackle and you get that 95-yard touchdown. And so they're walking a fine line here, Kilgore is, of getting those safeties involved too much in the run game, putting their corners on islands, and, end up giving up a big run here too.
An injured player down for Iowa Western. And a little bit of a kind of unique defense that we'll talk about in the future. We'll take a timeout. We'll be back after this. Zach Bowden, the injured Reaver, being tended to by the athletic training staff. 1st and 10. Trying to go to the run game. Bryant Williams, another carry. Bryant Williams was the guy we expected to see. He's been injured the last couple games. Jonathan Humple has filled in admirably with back-to-back 100-yard games. But Bryant Williams, I think, needs 85 yards to become second in the all-time rushing records for the Reavers. So an electric back. This time they find Fitzpatrick over the middle. He pops it up, and it's momentarily recovered. Now there's a scramble, Which way will those officials point? Somehow Iowa Western got that back. That was nearly the break that the Rangers needed.
Yeah, a lot of people touched that. A center touched it, a quarterback touched it, a receiver touched it, a safety touched it, another receiver touched it, maybe a D lineman touched it.
They go back onto the ground to Williams. He charges forward for a few. He's brought down by Patterson and company. One of those safeties up there.
Yeah, and that was Iowa Western going fast there, trying to beat the booth review. We didn't get one there, but they were trying to go fast, so to not give them enough time to call down to the white hat to stop the game.
Watson has been really good, but now again another handoff to Bryant. Good patience. Waits for a hold to develop and stutters forward for a good 4 yards. Crosses midfield into Kilgore territory. Some choice words being exchanged. The officials do a great job breaking it up before there's any flags thrown.
They've been real heavy here inside zone. There they came back with what looked to be a one-back power. They're basically playing, it's almost 4 wide, but they've got the last wide receiver kind of on the end line of scrimmage like a tight end.
And a quick pass over the middle, complete. A great tackle in space.
That's going to be short. We're going to get a 4th down here. I don't see any reason you wouldn't go for this here. Up 28 and running the ball well.
Nate Sullivan the catch. That was Patterson again with the tackle. 4th and looks like inches. And the offense stays on the field. Another opportunity for Kilgore to just find a way to come up with a stop. We've seen the punter once today from the Reavers. They hand off to Williams, and he has 3 yards and a 1st down.
And nothing fancy. Again, just another inside zone. Kilgore was late getting lined up there. Had a linebacker that was misaligned and tried to get back across the formation. They were trying to bring pressure off one side, but he wasn't lined up, so they ended up getting no pressure. Actually, Iowa Western turned a guy loose there in the middle, one of the down guys, but he just couldn't make the play in the hole.
Shuffle some personnel.
The thing about all this run game here going into the wind, which again, Iowa Western's comfortable doing it, obviously, and it's kind of where they cut their teeth this year. But the thing that it's doing is keeping Kilgore's offense off the field with that feeling that with the wind to your back, you maybe can score some points. Well, you can't score any points if your offense is on the sideline.
Another carry by Williams, another stop by Page. Like you said, with a 28-0 lead, they can take more of a deliberate pace.
They say the best offense is a good defense. And vice versa, I guess. It depends on the narrative that you're trying to push.
They continue to feed Williams, that time ahead of steam, close to a 1st down.
A little misdirection there, but just a counter. Nothing, again, nothing too cutting edge. They're just adding a little misdirection with it with a kind of a jet motion guy. The thing about counter is both teams, we've seen both teams run counter today, but counter is a very gap sound play. You get all down blocks, and you get a kick out, and you get a pull through. So it really is a safe call.
Damian Dunn made that tackle, and there's a nice job shooting in from behind to make the stop. Julian Payne on 3rd and short. On 2nd and short, sets up 3rd and short. 3rd and short sets up 4th and short.
You went for the last one. No reason to probably not go for this one. Again, every time you get a 1st down, you're probably getting 2.5 to 3.5 minutes off the clock. And again, more opportunities that Iowa Western has to keep Kilgore's offense off the field.
They'll give to Humple this time, who just barrels forward for the 1 yard plus several more. We'll say a gain of 5 down to the 26. Page another tackle, but Iowa Western just dominating the trenches on both sides of the football.
Yes, I was going to say that without adding the on both sides of the football, but you're correct. It's been both sides of the football.
They don't dominate the trenches. A nice job by Caden Kenny to get into the backfield, come up with the first sack of the day.
Iowa Western there tried to take a shot on first down, and really great job by the Kilgore secondary. That was a coverage sack is what that was. They only had two guys out in the route combination to this side of the field, and Iowa Western, or Kilgore, I should say, covered both of them up, but we do have a penalty flag.
Illegal shift on the offense that is obviously declined. They'll take the sack. R.J. McDonald, the guilty party, but it obviously won't count. And a loss of 6.
First time today, other than the penalty, that Iowa Western's actually kind of been behind the sticks a little bit. Let's see how they adjust here to being in an uncomfortable situation really for the first time.
And they'll pass over the middle to Fitzpatrick. Makes the catch and is blown up immediately by Payne.
Tried to run a little tunnel screen there with the slot. I don't argue the call, especially getting into his hands. He's been tough to tackle in space today, but a great job with this by the safety of Kilgore coming downhill. And he was on time and came up with a pretty violent hit.
Nearly got him to jump, able to get back. Kilgore kind of looks confused, trying to shuffle their line around.
We should get a timeout.
And now
here,
the offense looks confused, and we'll get a timeout. And as they take a timeout, we'll go to break and be back after this. $28 points in the first quarter. None here in the second, but Iowa Western on the move, trying to build on their advantage. Another handoff, trying to get outside. Nowhere to go for Jonathan Humple, who is enveloped by a couple different Kilgore College Rangers. Robinson and Burns.
Very similar in concept to the game I called yesterday in the other semifinal, as there was 24 points scored in the first quarter and 3 scored in the second quarter. However, the scoring was balanced. We had a heck of a football game, and it was a fun one to call, really.
4th and 16, now having to punt for the second time today is Max Bartacek. And back to receive for Kilgore is Michael Phoenix. He's their go-to when they need a big play. Whistle blows.
We're going to get a delay of game here, which in reality probably not a bad thing. And I don't think it was intentional. Sometimes people will take a delay of game there, give the punter a little more room. I don't think that was the intention there, but in the grand scheme of penalties across the football world, that is not a bad one at all.
Max Bartacek has pinned teams inside the 20 different times this year.
Some of that could be a reflection of the offense. It's a lot easier to pin people inside the 20 when you're not that far away to start.
And that's going to do it once more. They're going to spot that right at the 15, 16-yard line. So Kilgore comes up with a stop. And now they need to find a way to get the offense. And welcome back as Tyler Webb up there. And if Kilgore is able to score a touchdown on this drive, Gary, in theory they should get the ball to start the second half. You could see a potential route to getting back into this one as there's a quick completion to the outside. But it would need to start here. And right there was Zeke Freeman on the catch, but only 4 yards.
For sure, you're definitely running out of opportunities. You would have to think that this is the last time you're going to touch the football in the first half. And on average, you're going to get 2 to 3 chances per quarter. So Kilgore is probably only going to get, 5 to 7 more possessions in this football game, and you're down 4 possessions. So you've got to do something here to even give yourself a realistic shot to do something. And obviously you've got to, and that
busted play. Webb just running for his life. Wisely just throws it away, saves the lost yardage. I don't think that was designed to be a pass play. He just ran.
That should be a penalty. There's 3 linemen that are downfield. They missed a call there because there is 3 linemen that were well past the line of scrimmage. Everyone was worried about the intentional grounding call, and everybody missed that all the linemen were downfield. But, yeah, I mean, you're down 4 possessions here, and you're probably looking at, like I said, 5 to 7 more possessions. So you really need to do something here. And the thing that, is kind of hidden in the numbers here, too, is once you go back in that locker room at halftime and you get to sit with that heat on, coming back out here down 28 points, people are going to lose interest here on the other side. And we're going to find out how mentally tough Kilgore is as well as physically tough.
Incompletion nearly picked off by the Reavers. On the coverage was Pierre Lewis. And a 4th down, a 3 and out. Brings up 4th and 6, and now punting from the shadow of their goalposts. There were Pierre Lewis and Fitzpatrick back to receive. A chance to get a big punt, if nothing else, with the wind at his back. Low snap. Gets it away quick.
And he did.
And that's fair caught by Pierre Lewis, and I don't think that was an intentional bump, but Pierre Lewis tried to sell it.
He may have just been cold and fell down.
3 minutes and 22 seconds to go here in the second quarter.
And this is an important drive here for Kilgore on defense. They've got to limit points here. If they give up points, and now you're talking about 5 possessions.
Yeah. Even a field goal would make it.
Even a field goal makes it 5 possessions. You absolutely have to do whatever you can to prevent points here if you're Kilgore.
If you're Iowa Western, do you come out a little more aggressive even going into the wind?
No, because I think there's plenty of time. 3 minutes, well, heck, they've got a 1-play 95-yard drive, but I think here you just do you. Run your offense, and you shouldn't run out of time. If you have to be more aggressive here on the back end of this drive, unless you've got something that you've been hiding that you feel real confident about, a trick play here or there, that you feel like you can pull out of the hat here to get a quick score. But at this point here, up comfortably 28, there's no reason to hurry anything and force anything that you don't need to.
Gain of 4 for Humple. Page made the stop. Nose of the ball right at the midfield chalk.
And more importantly for Iowa Western, there's no reason to force anything because Kilgore yet has given you any reason to be concerned.
Watson steps up into the pocket, completes it to Fitzpatrick. 35-yard line. And they put it on the 30. It's a 20-yard gain. And now the Reavers are in business.
And I didn't see the route combo. I don't know if he stemmed and double moved that safety, but it really was just a seam route from the slot receiver, and he was wide open.
This time they'll hand off to Humple again. He's met with a lot of resistance early on.
And now that we're under 2 minutes, we do go into our new timing rules here for college football where the clock will stop briefly on first downs, which, again, we're not in a situation where we're necessarily in a hurry or necessarily in a 2-minute drill, but it is something to mention.
Gain of 2. Chance to go up 35-0 if they can punch one into the end zone. And they'll look to go deep, and it is picked off. Kilgore needed that. And they convert, take it back out. That was Jaheim Patterson with the pick. There is a flag down, I think, on the return.
It was after the play, so it's going to be whatever it is, it's going to be a dead ball, unsportsmanlike. I don't know on which team, but there was some pushing down there with two players, and it did for sure come out after the play.
We talked about if there's
It's an interception after the play. Unsportsmanlike conduct, number 4 of Iowa Western. That 15-yard penalty will be added to the end of the return. That's number 4.
It's on Hunter Watson, the quarterback, making the play downfield after the play.
And we talked about the importance there of that being able to limit points. And the turnover obviously does that, and that was huge for Kilgore. Again, mathematically, tough sledding to expect yourself to get back into this game, but at least you gave yourself a chance. You know, mathematically, you're still fighting, and that's half the battle.
Webb rolling out of the pocket, lets it fly, completed at midfield. That's Zeke Freeman again. Freeman has had a pretty nice day when they've had time to find him. That's his 4th catch. Over 70 yards. And there's nearly another interception that would have gone a long way by Pierre Lewis.
He would have taken that one straight through that gate right into the locker room, most likely. But yeah, that was very, very nearly a pick 6 by the corner for Iowa Western.
Still 2nd and 10. Ball at the 48. Webb, 6 of 13, 90 yards. Kind of a late snap. He'll just fling that into triple coverage out of bounds. Intended for Freeman. Well covered by Robertson and company.
Now, time here is not on your side if you're Kilgore, but at the same time, you still have 2 timeouts, and with the timing rules, if you can chip off first downs, you at least stop the clock and give yourself a chance to reboot. You know, right now they've got to be thinking field goal, especially with the wind, which is kicking up. I'm going to guess it's in the range of 12 to 16 mile an hour. But if you can get yourself in about the 25-yard range.
Webb under duress immediately, and he is brought down. Another sack.
And beanbags are
and
out.
The football came out, and it's recovered by Iowa Western. Look at big number 53 in the backfield. Joe Yelly.
I was looking downfield, so I didn't see what happened up front. I don't think they brought pressure, so something happened, I think, either with the defensive end and the right tackle. So I can't tell you exactly how that all played out, but obviously, I mean, they had a free runner. He hit the quarterback. Quarterback wasn't looking, ball came out, and the rest is history. But they had an unblocked player coming off that edge, which, generally speaking, in football schematics, it's tough to get a guy coming off the edge that scot-free. So either we had a busted protection or we had somebody that just got beat up front quite quickly.
Clev Lubin, another big defensive play. I think he was the guy who made the hit. Yelly with the recovery.
He's having a day. Has a touchdown and a forced fumble.
They'll hand it off, keeping it on the ground at this point. Humple on the carry. If you're Coach Strohmeyer, are you just getting into halftime or trying to get into field goal range?
No, it looks like he's going to take his timeouts with him and just take it into halftime. And again, I can't say I argue with that. You know, the Kilgore offense has given him no reason to be concerned at this point that they're probably going to catch him.
Play action now, going to take a shot, running around, nobody there, nearly intercepted, and that would have been another potential pick six by Damian Dunn, but that takes us to the end of the second quarter, as we'll take a timeout and be back with our halftime coverage after this here on this ESPN coverage of the NJCAA Division I football. And welcome back to Council Bluffs, Iowa, where the number 2 seed Iowa Western Reavers lead 28-0 over the number 3 seed Kilgore College Rangers. All 28 points scored in the first quarter. And Logan Anderson here with Gary Thomas. And Gary, the Reavers have done mostly what they want. Key NJCAA facts: 517 schools, 53 sport championships every year, 28 different sports represented, 70,000 student athletes, and 23 All-Americans in 2022. Of those 10,267 student athletes with 3.6 GPAs or higher. Fall championship recap: Monroe wins back-to-back men's soccer titles in a PK thriller. The Reavers repeat with an overtime win over Eastern Florida State in WSOC final. Florida Southwestern wins D1 volleyball championship. It's their second straight. And Trinidad State wins men's cross country. And Salt Lake wins women's cross country for their first ever cross country championship. Top 10 of the NJCAA. Hutchinson finished number 1, Iowa Western number 2. Hutchinson's already done. Kilgore trying to avoid their same fate. East Mississippi at number 4. And then Snow, the team that maybe looks at this and feels that they could have put a tougher game into this. You'll never know for sure. But Copiah, Lincoln, Dodge City, Gulf Coast, Trinity Valley, and Navarro finish out the top 10. 2023 NJCAA Division III final. DuPage defeats RCTC 33-29. In the Division I semis, as we mentioned, East Mississippi defeated Hutchinson 27-23. And the championship game will be on December 13th in Little Rock, Arkansas. That'll be an ESPNU broadcast. We're here at halftime. We'll be back with more of our halftime show after this. Iowa Western halfway to a chance to repeat as national champions here in the semifinal round. 28-0 Kilgore, still with something to say about that. Learn more about Kilgore. They were established in 1935 following an oil boom in East Texas. They have an enrollment of 11,000 plus students each year. Rangers Athletics boasts 4 sports: football, men's and women's basketball, and softball. School famous for their Rangerettes, and they have 2 campuses in Kilgore and Longview. Let's learn a little bit more about Iowa Western, established in 1966 between traditional and non. Iowa Western Community College has an enrollment of 5,267, over 100 academic programs offered at Iowa Western. Students are hands-on from day one, from nursing to diesel mechanics, and Dr. Danny Kinney is the 5th president at Iowa Western Community College, succeeding his father. We'll take another timeout. We'll be back with stats, highlights, and more after this. And welcome back as Iowa Western at halftime ahead 28-0 over Kilgore College. The winner of this game will move on to play East Mississippi here on the campus of Lewis Central High School in Council Bluffs, where Iowa Western plays their home games. And we'll see some highlights, and there's been a lot of them early and often. That initial pass complete, sets up this touchdown strike from Watson to Bonner to put Iowa Western up 7-0. Kilgore coming back, was able to come up with a first down right away. That one to Zeke Freeman, but were ultimately stopped, and that set up this 95-yard touchdown run by Jonathan Humpel, where he just turned on the afterburners. And from that point on, it really felt like the Reavers seized the momentum and never released it. As we'll see another big strike from Watson. This one to Johnson from 40 yards out. And the defense didn't want to be left out. Setting up this scoop and score from Clev Lubin. And that's where we stand, 28-0. -1 rush yards for Kilgore, 157 for Iowa Western, 145 through the air for the Reavers, 90 for the Rangers, 302 to 90 total yards, 11 first downs for the Reavers, just 4 for Kilgore. Only one penalty on either team. It was 15 yards on Kilgore, but again, sometimes stats don't tell the story. Today, I think they are pretty accurate with what we've seen so far.
Yeah, and the balance, showed out of Iowa Western's offense there. I mean, you look at that graphic, it was, 150 to 140 something. I mean, just doing whatever they want. But a lot of those long passes that are, we're going to go to break here, and we'll talk about it when we get back.
We'll be back after this. And we're back, just about ready to start quarter number 3. And Gary, if you're Kilgore in that locker room, what is the message? How do the Rangers fight their way back into this one?
Well, it starts with one possession. I mean, you've got to go one possession at a time. You've got to have some kind of stability in what you're doing. You've got to find a little bit of success, which is going to affect the mental aspect of it. And that's the thing, is you've got to keep people believing, but you've got to have success to convince people that things are going well. So they do get the ball here first. Again, the biggest thing when you look at that stats, and to finish my thought right before the break, was how balanced Iowa Central has been. But a lot of Iowa Western success has been, it's been the deep ball. It hasn't been a lot of short, sustainable passing game, and a lot of that has been set up by their ability to run the football and control the line of scrimmage. And in all honesty, Kilgore's demise has been their lack of ability to control the line of scrimmage. They've had no semblance of a run game. Obviously, what would we say, -1 yard rushing in the first half. Now, a lot of that is sacks. They have had some positive runs. They just can't sustain anything because of that pass rush and because of their lack of ability to run the football. So, coming out here, it looks like Kilgore is going to be going into the wind. Although the wind is not as big of a factor as it was early on, it seemed to have died down a little bit. The most difficult part, in having been in this situation many times, and actually having been in this situation on this field, is once you go in that locker room and these guys get to sit in that heat for a little bit and warm up and thaw out, and you realize how cold you were now that you're warm again, you got to come back out here and do it all over again. It's one thing to be able to do that in a tight football game. It's a whole another operation to try to do that in these weather conditions. And it is, and you might be sitting here watching this game in front of your TV or from Florida or from wherever, but I can tell you firsthand, it is cold outside.
Melvin Polk and Zeke Freeman back to receive the kickoff. And that'll sail towards Polk. That's Freeman off the hop. Looks for a little seam, not much there. Taken down right away.
And almost like clockwork, as this game has started back up, the wind has kicked. That was a completely calm halftime, and now the wind has kicked up again. It actually changed directions. In the first half, the wind was blowing from our right to left, and now it's kind of blowing right in our face here, but working more left to right.
seems like an absolutely crucial possession here for Kilgore. If they're not able to find it, they're just, again, as you had mentioned, just the mathematical number of possessions, not a lot of margin for error, and we'll see what.
They're going to need a little help too. The
Webb thought about throwing, now keeps it himself, picks up maybe one before he runs right in.
The realism is,
Yes.
if they are fortunate enough to score on 4 of their possessions here in the second half, the realism is they probably don't hold Iowa Western to 0 points. So you're looking for not 4 scores, you're probably looking for 5. So they're going to need some help, and when I say they're going to need some help, it's going to be help from Iowa Western. It's going to have to be a turnover or a big punt return or a punt block or something like that that kind of swings it, because you're probably not going to do it with 4 or 5 offensive possessions.
Little misdirection trying to get to Alden Bradley on an end around, and he loses more yardage as, again, the Reavers defense just swarming all over the place as Lubin, another big stop.
Yeah, they tried to go, jet sweep there, which, one thing I always learned is when you're playing a good, stout, athletic defense is, you do at some point you have to go outside and you got to mix it up. But they're fast, they're going to run you down. You're almost better off going at them because the negative play far outweighs the positive, and now you're sitting here in a 3rd and 14 and another sack.
And another sack. It looks like it was Lubin again. He has been everywhere today, and Iowa Western coming out pumped up after another big sack. Pettis also in on the tackle, and that was not what the Rangers were looking for to start the 3rd quarter.
No, and that'll knock that negative -1 yard rushing total from the first half to closer to negative 10 now for the game.
Baldazzo to kick this away. And it looks like timeout called before the punt. So we'll toss it back and be back. We'll keep it right here until after the punt.
And this is what I was referring to is, you come out of that locker room and, first thing you do is you lose 8 yards on 3 plays, and now you've got the punt team run out there and there's only 10 guys on the field, so you have to burn a timeout. So you've got an unforced error. Again, this is where the success was going to be really important on those 3 downs to get guys back locked in and get guys interested. And the thing is, this punt's really important here as much as we said that this drive was going to be important, because this is where games snowball. 28-0 is not exactly a close game, but this thing could go to 50 here real fast if you let it.
And again, the wind kind of flipped, so kicking with the wind at his back. And it's a big punt. And Fitzpatrick will try to take it. He has some room across the 45 near the 40. And a good return, good field position for the Reavers when we come back. The fans here braving the elements, and on that side of the stands probably enjoying what they're seeing for the time being with Iowa Western ahead 28-0. They have the ball on the Kilgore 41. They'll try the run game to start things off. Humple doesn't find much room, starting to get a little chippy down there as well.
Yep, and this is where games just spiral out of control, and if you're Iowa Western here, you're sitting here up 28, potentially going to go up, 5 possessions here. You have something now to play for. You've got a national championship game. We would assume, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but things are trending that direction quite quickly. But Now you've got to make sure that you don't lose, a key player here off of something, making a poor decision here in the heat of the moment and have to go play, the most important game of the season, without one, if not maybe even more of your or a few of your best players.
With the penalty all the way up to the 24. Watson hands off to Humple, who just chugs his way forward inside the 20 to the 16, a gain of 9 before Cal Varner III makes the tackle.
Yeah, they always talk about defense is travel, in the NFL and every level of football, but so does run game. And right now, Iowa Western's doing both.
They go to the air looking for Fitzpatrick. Can't haul it in. Pretty well covered. That was Damian Dunn on the coverage, sticking right with LJ Fitzpatrick. As they told us, he doesn't have big stats. He was injured much of this year, had a couple big games early, but you can see the athleticism he brings to the table and why they might need him if they advance to next week.
And you could see them designing some things to force some touches to get the ball into his hand.
Watson keeps it himself, not much there, so on 2nd and 1, it's now going to be 4th and 1. As Iowa Western able to keep the clock running, but not able to pick up a first down.
The beauty of is that first down play where you pick up 8, now you're 2nd and 2. 2nd and 2, obviously the best time if you're as an offensive play caller to want to take a shot down the field, and you see they did. They threw the slot fade there to the wide receiver, but you feel pretty good that on 2nd and 2, if you take a shot, you've now got 2 downs to get 2 yards, which they did.
Humple just bludgeons his way for 2 yards. Vincent Page again makes the stop. And again, some extracurriculars happening as things starting to get chippy down there.
And you're in a situation where we just talked about your talented wide receiver is, in the middle of a confrontation with, a defensive player. And again, probably not a guy you want to lose for the national championship game in a game where you're already up 28 points and you're about to punch in another one. The last thing you want to do is have a guy.
It's just on Damian Dunn of Kilgore, so half the distance. 1st and goal, and the Reavers are knocking on the door. Are you at all surprised that on that 4th down they just didn't take the 3 points?
No. It's a 4th and 1. At this point, Kilgore has shown nothing on offense that would show any be of any concern for Iowa Western.
Humple makes a quick cut, lunges for the end zone, just short.
The only reason you would kick a field goal there is if you were concerned that either A, it's going to get blocked, or B, that you're giving Kilgore another opportunity. And again, right now, based on negative 10 yards rushing through 2.5 quarters, I don't know that there was any reason to kick a field goal there.
And that is going to go backwards. The only thought process is then it's 5-possession game as the time goes away, but ultimately they picked it up, so it doesn't matter. That goes backwards as they try to run it with Humple.
Now, if they don't convert here, I could see them kicking a field goal down here. But on the 4th and 1, if I'm Coach Strohmeyer, the way I've been running the football, there isn't many opportunities where they only needed 1 and didn't get it, other than the one we just watched right there. Kilgore had two linebackers that ran through either an A or a B gap there and forced a 4-yard loss.
Empty backfield for Watson. And now they'll pitch it back on an end around. That goes the wrong way. As Sean Gary gets a carry, and that moves backwards. So 3rd down and goal. What was once on the
2nd and goal from the 1.
From the 1, yeah, now all the way back to the 7.
But now this does push it to, as you just alluded to, a 5-possession game here, which, you know, again, they're still going to have 5 possessions here, but you've got to get 5 scores somehow and limit Iowa Western to 0 in that same amount of time. And mathematically, that is uphill sledding.
This will be a 25-yarder. Somebody moved early.
And I think we're going to have a snap infraction again on the deep snapper. He had one earlier, and I think he just had a second one.
We talked with Coach Strohmeyer. That's one of the things, and maybe that's why they went for it early. They've had some issues with snapping and a couple blocked kicks throughout the year.
He did say in our interview that he has spent more time this year on field goal PAT operation than he ever has in his coaching career, and apparently we can see his frustrations here.
Moves it back. Now on the 12. The hold will be on the 20-yard line. So a 30-yard attempt. Plenty of distance. It's good. 30-yard field goal, as we'll take a quick timeout. Be back after this. A 30-yard field goal by Max Bartachek puts the Reavers up 31-0 over Kilgore. 9 minutes and change here in the 3rd quarter. Bartachek to kick off. Freeman and Polk back to receive. But again, this has just been a perfectly executed game plan by the Reavers. That goes through the hands of Freeman, who has to take it out because he touched it. He is taken down inside the 5 at the 1 or 2. And when it rains, it pours.
Every phase of the game has been a struggle today for Kilgore. Offensively, obviously, we're in 80 yards of total offense. We're flirting with negative 10 yards rushing. We've had a fumble on kickoff return, and now we have another squibbed return that turns into a starting possession at the 1-yard line. So now we've got to flirt here with getting ourselves even out of this territory here, and again, keeping this game. You know, at this point in time for Kilgore, you're almost certainly mathematically out of it. Now it's a point of you're playing for pride, and let's let this thing not snowball and be embarrassing. And that's where, again, you're going to find out how mentally tough people are right now.
Last time they were down in this part of the field, Clev Lubin recovered a fumble for a touchdown. They'll try to run it to the outside, and this is going to result in a safety. They tried to run that to a new player in. That's Caden Meredith.
Number 0.
Caden Meredith, who we expected to be their kind of bell cow back, who just hasn't touched the ball much today. And he came in. And that's a safety.
Yeah, generally when you're down there on the 1-yard line, going outside and going sideways is generally not, your first concern is always getting some breathing room. At some of the other levels, NFL even, running quarterback sneak there to get yourself at least a little bit of room to breathe, get yourself to the 2 or the 3, give yourself room to operate there. But even an inside zone or some type of ISO power, something that's low maintenance but gap sound, just to see if you can get a little bit of push up front. You're not necessarily trying to break a 99-yard touchdown or even, trying to convert it even. You're just trying to get a little bit of breathing room. Knuckle up front, get a little bit of push up the middle, get the running back in there to wedge himself in there and just drive legs. And then go to work from there. Going sideways, though, is generally, not always a wise proposition backed up that far in your own territory.
It's now Larry Bird to 0. 8:53 to go here in the third quarter, and the free kick coming.
And the worst part about that, if you're Kilgore, is Iowa Western gets the ball back. So again, not only do you not have it, they've got it, and they're eating clock with every snap that they take.
And they'll kick this away. And down near midfield after the return. On the run back was Sean Gary Jr. And great field position once more for Iowa Western. As the offense comes back out, at what point do you start taking out some of the starters and putting in reserves? Looks like we still have the number ones out there for the time being.
Yep, and usually it's really about the middle of that third quarter when you do. I wouldn't be shocked if this is their last drive here, and this probably puts the nail in the coffin, I think, although that is potentially already happened.
Handoff to Humple. He loses a yard. Talk about playing for pride. Showing some pride there. Jermari Seals gets into the backfield, and it's a loss of yards for Humple.
Great starting field position again for Iowa Western, and really other than that one where they started at their own 5 and had a 95-yard touchdown, they've had a really good starting field position all day long.
Watson steps up to throw a dart over the middle. It is complete to Jordan Johnson once more. 16 yards to Johnson.
Nice
and
little,
right back up.
Nice little intermediate digger out there. Good throw and catch. Smooth operation in the pass game.
And that was intended for Latrell Bonner, who was wide open. They just overshot him there. He would have likely taken that in for a touchdown.
Yeah, the quarterback's he's mad at himself right now. He knows he missed a freebie there, and he was quite wide open, and he just sailed him down the middle. And again, nobody's perfect. You miss on some, and that's one I guarantee he wishes he could get back.
Started perfect, was 11 for 11 at one point. Now 12 of 16, 163 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. They'll hand off to Humple, keeping it on the ground on 2nd and 10. He batters it forward for a couple before he's stopped by Julian Payne. 3rd and 8. Down to the 31. And the Reavers able to just kill some clock. And they'll empty out the backfield. Watson from Texas. Salina, Texas, went to Arkansas Monticello High School. Trying to go deep, looking downfield, well covered. And
that's a formation right there I always love. That's double tight empty. It gives you a lot of options in the pass game, gives you even more options in the run game, especially if you have a quarterback that can run the football a little bit. We used to run a lot of again, empty, but basically one back power out of it. And the beauty of it is with 2 tight ends, you can run it either way. But we're going to get a 4th down attempt here at Iowa Western.
Figure not much to be gained on a punt from the 31.
They went to a 4-wide set here, 3-by-1.
Watson on the draw. He'll need to break that tackle. He does not. Nice job by Derek Burns to pull him down and gets the ball back for the Rangers. That'll take us to another break. We'll be back after this. And welcome back. Facts about Iowa Western. They're 2-time NJCAA national champs 2012 and last year in 2022. They've played in the national championship game 4 times, and they spent 42 straight weeks inside the top 10, 5 national players of the year, and 392 players sent to D1 institutions, 100 to Power 5 schools. Kilgore to start their drive on their own 27. Webb, a flare to the outside, complete, some room to run. That was Trey Epps on the reception, ends up getting just 1, works hard for that 1.
Yes, he did.
You may be wondering, what is
just a little swing out of the backfield?
In fact, and if you were wondering that, I also wondered that. It originated in Middle-Age England and Scotland. It's a river pirate. It's someone who uses the rivers to terrorize locals. And then there's an interception thrown right away. That's Joshua Pierre-Louis with his 7th of the year as the river pirate takes his booty. But that obviously went forward to the pioneer days here in the U.S. up and down the Missouri River, which we are very close to. But another turnover, and the snowball continues to go downhill against the Rangers.
I had the luxury of opening my hotel window last night and seeing the river. We were right on it. Didn't get to see much of it because we didn't get in until about midnight last night, but we did get to see the river.
Webb just underthrew that there to make it. Was Pierre-Louis. Again, has 7 interceptions on the season. He gives up some big plays, I'm told, but he makes some big plays, and there's one there. They'll hand it off to Bryant to the outside, and he takes it all the way in for a Reaver touchdown. Bryant Williams from 27 yards out.
Just a nice little one-back power there. And again, that's, now we're flirting with we're flirting with 40-0 here with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. And unfortunately for Kilgore, there is a lot of football left to play here. We've got another 20-plus minutes of football left, and they've got to do something here to stop the bleeding.
I'm going to guess that we'll start to see a lot of reserves in after this, and that the game plan will be stripped down to a lot of dives up the middle. But we'll see. We'll take one more break, and we'll be back after this. Bryant Williams getting his swagger back, coming back from injury. A 27-yard touchdown
for
run.
Those with big dreams.
And you can see just turns on the jets, shows some wiggle, maybe a little uninspired tackle effort there down the stretch as there's the kickoff. And Kilgore runs it across the 20. And we'll have another late flag. That's another reason maybe to get some of the starters out and get the reserves in. Because again, as you said, there's just a lot at stake if you get the wrong penalty at the wrong time.
Yep. And again, I told you, once you come out of that locker room and that cold sets in, it changes you mentally. And I think that's what Kilgore's running into here is they're starting to see that we're not going to catch them. It's cold. It's uncomfortable. And now it gets sloppy. And you just hope that the sloppy doesn't turn into, something where we start getting ejections.
That's Louis Brooks for Iowa Western. I believe they said Izeal Jones for Kilgore, so they'll offset. But now if either one of those guys gets one more, night will be done early.
And and if it's the Iowa Western guy, he'll be out for the national championship game, and that's where these become really, really important.
5:47 to go in the third. It has been all Iowa Western, and we have a new quarterback in, I believe. There's a high snap running for his life, nearly throwing an interception. That was Mason Welch, the 6'4", 230-pound freshman from Shreveport, Louisiana. Throws an incompletion. That initial snap almost went over his head, did a nice job. Needed all 6'4" to get that.
Yeah, he was fortunate that wasn't another safety. Good play by the quarterback to avert even more disaster.
It's just a harmless incompletion. Welch on the year, 0 for 6 coming into this game. No touchdowns, 1 pick. That one's short, intended for Freeman on the outside. And 3rd down and 10 coming up.
Tough to come off the bench when you've been sitting there for the better part of 2.5 hours in this weather, freezing, and come in and throw passes at a high level. And that, I think, was a reflection of the weather conditions more so than anyone's ability.
We talked to Coach Gooden. He prepared his players as much as they could, did some later in the night practices when it gets a little colder, but just doesn't get down to 35 degrees like it is right now. That ball
we got
is
a
on
bad
the turf,
snap.
and it looks like it is recovered by Iowa Western. Brody Taggart on the botched snap.
And that was a shotgun snap that looked like it hit the center in the butt. Sometimes it either slips or you catch just a piece of your butt and the ball drops straight down. So it did. It dropped straight down. The nose tackle jumped on it. He was right there. And again, this is where, weather probably played a condition that. I don't know if it's the backup center, and I didn't get a chance to see who it was.
Taggart, the backup center you're talking about.
Yeah, the backup center or the starting center. Either way, it's a reflection of your hands are cold, and things just get away from you. And right now, this game has gotten away from Kilgore in a big
Taggart
way.
with the big turnover belt. I don't know exactly what their terminology for it, but he gets to wear it for a while.
And Iowa Western still does have their starting receivers in.
And they still have Watson in at quarterback as the whistle blows. Somebody jump, false start. I expect at this point we'll start to see a lot of dive plays. Or play action. They'll look down, and you could see the official thought about pulling out the flag intended for Fitzpatrick, say it's incidental contact. I think right call right there.
Yeah, usually when it's their feet that get tangled up, it's not a penalty, and that's 100% what that was. It wasn't a grab, but that was a shot there. Don't get me wrong, by Iowa Western. That was a double move by the slot. They play actioned it to freeze the inside, but that was a one-on-one with their guy that they have a lot of confidence in. And again, they forced about 10 or 12 touches to him today, and you can see the importance that they've put on getting him the football.
2nd and 17, and they'll hand it off. Trying to find the edge is Trevor Burnett on the carry. Picks up a couple. Brings up 3rd down and long.
Gain a couple, bring up 3rd down.
And you got to think that this is probably 2 shots to get 16 and not 1 here. I don't know that they will kick a field goal from this distance. Maybe on a 72-degree day, maybe. but I would have to guess that our wind chill might be flirting with below freezing at this point still.
And they drop to throw once more. And that's over the middle, incomplete.
Tried to force the dig in there. He actually had the post over the top that was actually open. Again, don't know that he was in the read or not, but the post did come open over the top, and the protection was okay. Again, it's easy to say that guy's running wide open, why didn't you throw him the ball? But if he's not in the progression, obviously the quarterback generally is not going to run into seeing that guy's wide open.
They'll try the long field goal from 42 yards out. He made one from 30 today, did Max Bartacek. Has plenty of distance, wide left.
And I think we're going to get an automatic first down here on a roughing the kicker maybe. Although that flag is back there, so I checked that. That's not going to be my guess.
We'll see what the flag is.
The flag wouldn't be that far back on a roughing the kicker.
Personal foul. Leaping. Number 1. Even. Half the distance to the goal. Automatic.
It's leaping.
Yep.
Can't do that, and it's an automatic first down with still 4.5 to go here in quarter number 3.
I feel like 20 minutes ago there was 5 minutes left in the third quarter. This third quarter has been long. A lot of stoppage in play.
First down at 10, down to the 13. Watson changing the play. He'll throw, looks for it over the middle, bobbled and caught for a Reaver touchdown. Fitzpatrick. For Fitzpatrick. A big touchdown reception. It's now 46.
Nothing fancy there, just a little flash fake with the quarterback and the tailback, and just a quick slant to the wide receiver, and he beat the safety in a one-on-one, and the rest is history. And I said it a couple minutes ago. I said if you don't get this thing some stabilization here, you're going to be flirting with 50, and we're flirting with 50 here in the third quarter.
Bartacek in to try the extra point, and he nails it. So 47-0 is your count. We'll go over some stats for you individually, as I'm assuming we're probably going to start to see, although I said that before, I thought we'd start to see some reserves.
I said that 3 series ago, and we still don't here, but I would bet you that happens here pretty quick.
Hunter Watson, 13 of 20, 176 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Jonathan Humpel, 18 carries for 132 yards and a touchdown, 95 of that on the 1 long run. Bryant Williams, 9 for 62. Then L.J. Fitzpatrick, 6 catches, 69 yards, now a touchdown. And we'll see that again right here. Just a dart, almost bobbled it, but hauled it in. Jordan Johnson also 3 catches for 59 yards. For Tyler Webb, starting at quarterback for Kilgore, was 6 of 15, no touchdowns, a pick, 90 yards, and nobody with more than 8 yards rushing. The total numbers are not pretty if you're a Kilgore fan. They just have not gone the way of the Rangers. Freeman and Phoenix back to receive for Kilgore. Freeman across the 20, a little bit of a crease. Flags fly near midfield. And another one because he's all out of flags on the late block. I think that's a flag that if we hadn't already seen some chippiness, maybe they don't throw, but gotta reel it in at some point.
Yep. And the fact is, the more penalties, the more stoppage in play, and the colder you get. So you're almost counterproductive to your goal here, which if you're Kilgore is just getting back inside, stopping the bleeding, getting a hot shower, getting something to eat, and getting back on that bus.
The holding is declined. The unnecessary roughness at the end on Izeel Jones. All right, I thought it was on number 1. They said 30. It's on Vincent Page.
Yeah, he was the only one in the neighborhood.
Because I think Izeel Jones may have had one on the other one, and that would have been
an
his
ejection.
second.
Yeah.
But either way, you know, we've talked a lot about Iowa Western because they've dominated this game. Kilgore still had a phenomenal season, 9-1. Came into this game on a 6-game win streak, won the Southwest Junior College Football Conference Championship. They've had a great season. It's going to come to an end tonight here in Iowa. Not in a way that they would have hoped, but as they'll run it up the middle.
And the good part about this level, too, is, and again, you're right, we've talked a lot about Iowa Western and their success, and obviously for good reason. But you're right, Kilgore did have a great year, and they've got some good football players. I know the score isn't a reflection right now of that, but they have had a good year. They do have some good football players, and a lot of these guys are going to go on and play at the next level, and that's the important thing about junior college is, at the 4-year level, it's, for the seniors, it's final, it's over. There's nothing left. You go to the real world, actually, after that. But, a lot of these guys' football careers are actually just starting, which is the cool
interception
part.
thrown by Welch. And right there to make it was Jacob Waller from Bellevue, Iowa. And 3:39 still to go in the third. Reavers up 47-0 and a turnover. Pretty deep in Ranger territory.
Yeah, and I guess we're going to find out if we're going to get the starters or the backups here.
The turnover belt now to Waller.
And we are going to get the twos here. We got the second group of wide receivers in, and we finally do not have the starting quarterback.
And we have Chad Kearns, the backup quarterback from San Ramon, California. Bobbles the snap, falls on it. So a loss of a couple. More than a couple, in fact, a loss of 6 on the errant snap.
And I'm going to go ahead and say that had to do with him not being able to feel his hands. It is tough to catch things.
They don't get the nice hand warmers that we get.
Well, he's got a hand warmer on his back, and I'd be willing to bet that he's got a couple hot hands inside that backpack, but it is still cold out there. And, again, that ball gets slick when it gets cold. We talked about that early on in the broadcast, but it still stands true.
There's another handoff. This one was Trevor Burnett. Gets back to the original line of scrimmage. No gain. Nice play by Marcus Moultrie to get in there and make the stop. 2.5 to go in the third. We don't have the official record, but maybe the longest third quarter in the history of football. They'll give it to Burnett once more. He'll pick up 1 and bring up 4th down and long, and the Reavers will either try a long field goal or a pooch punt coming up.
I concur on the longest third quarter in the history of college football.
We don't have official stats on that, but we're just going with it. Looks like we will have a pooch kick Barticek to kick this. Michael Phoenix back to receive. Again, we were talking him up before the game, and he is a phenomenal player all year. He has been a non-factor here today.
It's good.
Despite having 41 receptions, over 700 yards, 9 touchdowns throughout the year, they've just not been able to have enough time to find him downfield.
No, and I think early on the byproduct of that was the wind. And I think as everybody settled in, it became the pass rush quite quickly. And Iowa Western did as we talked to Coach Strohmeyer early in the week, it was, his concern was how his secondary was going to hold up against that receiving core, but he found a way to neutralize that receiving core with his defensive line, and which took some pressure off the secondary having to do what he was hoping that they were going to have to do, and clearly that got accomplished today.
Mason Welch, play action, he'll throw. Deep, looking for Phoenix. Did he haul that in? They say it's waved off. Very nearly able to reel in a big catch. There's the talent. Pretty nice ball thrown by Welch. Just not able to complete the play.
Yes, it was. Good throw, difficult catch, which he almost came up with.
We talked about what a Reaver was. Have you ever wondered what a Ranger specifically was, especially in the state of Texas?
Well, yeah.
An investigative law enforcement agency formed in 1823, back when I believe it was the Republic of Texas, by Stephen F. Austin. And they have become well known as elite investigators. Now Phoenix with the catch. He'll break a tackle, pick up the first down and more.
In my career, I've coached against Kilgore College, and I've also played as a player against Stephen F. Austin. Fun fact for whoever's listening.
What is the message to your team right now? Because as a football coach, you're trying to instill culture. You want your team to continue to battle, but there's just about everything that could possibly go wrong, but you still want to try to find some silver linings here in this upcoming fourth quarter.
Yeah, at this point you're teaching life lessons. Keep fighting. Clearly we're not going to win the football game, and that's okay. Not everything in life is about winning and losing. Okay, now it's about how do we respond to adversity? Do we take pride in finishing our job? And don't let this thing get sloppy from a standpoint where we just turn into poor sportsmen. With the unsportsmanlike conducts and the pushing and the shoving, and it's teaching guys that it's okay to lose. There's an old saying: you win or you learn. You never lose, and this is an opportunity to learn about. And that's the beauty of sports. In reality, is why do people play sports? Well, it's an outlet for competitive people. But it's also it teaches so many life lessons, and that's why there's so many businesses out there that recruit former athletes to as employees, because they know how to work as a group, they know how to be competitive, and I think we're going to go to break here.
Back with the fourth quarter after this. Starting quarter number 4 here in Council Bluffs. Kilgore down by 47 to Iowa Western. 3rd down and 4. Welch, the snap, he'll hand off, and the dark side defense comes up with a stop, a loss of yards. Looks like 3 down. Wadier with the stop.
It's 4th down.
The good news is it is finally the fourth quarter.
4th down, we'll see the punt unit come in. Fitzpatrick back to receive. Lost kind of in this one is that Kilgore has one of the best kickers in the country with Baldazzo. He's going to punt this one away. Tried to convince everyone that he might fake it. Fair catch called. But Baldazzo on the year
Got a flag down here.
is number 1 in kicking points, number 2 in made field goals. There is a flag.
Iowa Western has 12 on the field. I think that's going to be the flag.
Can't do that. I don't know if you know that as a former coach.
It is frowned upon, but I'd be lying if I said that we didn't do it from time to time. Especially when you get into situations like this. You've got backups. You know, a lot of people don't have depth on their special teams. You know, there's not enough time in the day to practice with your backup punt team and your backup kickoff team. So you've normally got backups here, backups there, and when you pull a guy, he's like, okay, well, am I still supposed to be on the punt team, or and you run into situations like these.
It won't be enough for a first down, so I'm assuming they'll apply this on the end of the kick, or will they re-kick it? Looks like they'll re-kick it.
Which that was a really good kick.
Yeah. Maybe they'll go for it now that it's...
They do appear to have their offensive line in that huddle.
Instead of 4th and 7, it's now 4th and 2, and they'll bring out the offense. Try to pick up 2 more yards. Meredith, the back.
Just a good old-fashioned double tight
snap,
formation.
And that's nearly picked up. We'll see if that second effort pushed forward. I think it's going to be marked a hair short. They needed to get just across the 40-yard line. It looks like it's going to be spotted on the 40, but it's going to be close. It's a stop.
And we had a little bit of a bad snap, but you can see the miscommunication between, you know, backup quarterback, backup running back. The mesh point was just not very, very good.
And we'll be back with the next drive for Iowa Western after this. And welcome back. 13:57 to go here in this game. Iowa Western started off on their first drive with a 37-yard touchdown pass and have never looked back as they'll hand it off up the middle for a gain of 3. Burnett, the carry. It gives us a chance to talk just about the program that Scott Strohmeyer has built. He's the only coach in the history of Iowa Western Community College. He's been there for 15 years, 140-28 record, 2 national championships, has played in 2 others, and is, barring the true comeback of the century, going to play in number 5 this season.
And it's remarkable. Just like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, just an excellent football coach. I'm surprised he's honestly stuck around this long. I'm sure he's had opportunities to get Division I football jobs, you know, as a coordinator or something like that, which he absolutely probably would do a phenomenal job of. But yeah, I was around at the beginning of it. When he first started the program here at Iowa Western, I was the offensive coordinator at College DuPage. And we were in a league together. And then when I took the head job at Dodge City Community College, we had the scheduling agreement with the Iowa schools. So literally we've been playing against Scott since even before Iowa Western, when he was at Nyack Community College, Northern Iowa Area Community College, before they dropped football in about 2007, I believe. Just his, I mean, you can look at his record and it's very indicative of the quality of work that he's done here, and the quality of the assistants that have come through here. He hasn't had a lot of turnover on his staff. Just, you know, great setup and a lot of success.
We'll take a timeout and we'll talk more about Coach Strohmeyer and company after this. And welcome back. We're in quarter number 4. Looks like we'll probably have a national championship matchup between Iowa Western and East Mississippi. There's a deep ball looking downfield, incomplete. Kearns airs it out.
Pass incomplete.
Couldn't connect, but we're talking about Coach Strohmeyer, number 2 on active coaches with 150 plus wins. And has just done everything you can just about possibly do in building a program.
Yeah, and I don't know what I know Buddy Stevens at East Mississippi has 5 national championships. I know Butler has obviously quite a few as well, but I don't know that Troy had all of them, and he might have, don't get me wrong. But I would guess if Coach Strohmeyer has a chance to win another one, he's got to be close to probably being, and Buddy will be in that game because they beat Hutch last night, but Scott's going to have an opportunity to start creeping up on maybe the most national championships as a head football coach at the NJCAA level.
Right now has 2. Has the
long way away from 5, but can't get to 5 if you don't get your 3rd.
This would be his first potential chance at back-to-back championships. You were part of the broadcast for that East Mississippi game yesterday afternoon, I should say.
Yep.
How do you think those 2 teams match up?
I think it'll be a heck of a game that I'm intrigued to see. Hutch played Iowa Western earlier and beat them by about 21, and East Mississippi just knocked them off. East Mississippi looked athletic last night. Their quarterback, wide receivers, they've got some skill guys that can run around. I think they'll be physically better up front, than Kilgore is, or at least that they're showing today. But Hutch did run the football well last night. Hutch lost that football game because they made a couple crucial mistakes, not necessarily because East Mississippi had better players. Hutch should have won that football game. So I think it'll be a really, really good football team, but I do think it will be a much more difficult test. Clearly a much more difficult test for Iowa Western.
Welch overthrows his target. Before that, had a nice run, brings up 3rd down and a long 4. And, a lot of credit to all those here in the crowd that whether they made the trip from just a few minutes away or a few hours away, and probably a few more than a few hours away in the case of anyone here from Kilgore or Longview. Welch, the handoff to Meredith, and he is stuffed after a short gain.
And I think the biggest thing that will show up in that national championship game is probably East Mississippi's ability to change field position better than Kilgore has today, which in turn is going to put a lot more pressure on that Iowa Western offense, which, as we talked about earlier, it's not flashy. It hasn't generated a lot of points throughout the year. So I think if East Mississippi can change field position, I think Iowa Western will struggle to score more points, obviously, than they have today. But I do think East Mississippi will score some points. They're pretty good on offense. They've got a lot of weapons. They can operate at a high tempo.
And they go for the fake. And it's caught. And the fake punt will prevent a change of possession. A nice throw.
You've got, I think, linemen downfield.
It was completed to Julian Payne.
They ran a fake punt, and the punter threw it, but all of the protectors have released and went downfield. They had about 9 guys downfield.
The rule down the field is a completed pass for a first down. The previous play is under review.
So it's under review.
Well, there's a flag over there on the 29-yard line. They didn't say what the flag was for. I just assumed that the flag was for ineligible receivers downfield, which there seem to be quite a few of them. Maybe I'm wrong. I guess we'll see.
Maybe they
I don't know if they're reviewing.
that if it's incomplete, that it just all bets are off and irrelevant, because then the field position would be different.
Well, I don't even know if you can. I don't know. Guess we'll find out together.
But, you know, going back to that point, the lone loss for this Iowa Western team was to Hutchinson, 42-28 in their final game of the regular season. So that Hutchinson team, very, very good. And I think what I was told was that the Reavers were down some key players, you know, players like Fitzpatrick and Bryant Williams are back this week. Could make a difference, but it should be a heck of a title game.
It will, and I do think they match up both pretty well together. I think the biggest key for Iowa Western is going to be, can they score? Because I do think East Mississippi will score some points. I wouldn't be surprised if they scored in the 21 to 24 range. Is just a guesstimate. Is can Iowa Western, with some of the longer fields that they potentially are going to have, is can they outscore them?
I don't think they'll be able to hit as many home run balls as they did today.
For sure. You won't see a 95-yard rushing touchdown.
Number 26, the receiver was covered up by a guy right there. 5-yard penalty, loss of down, first down.
All right, so, and we'll take a timeout and be back after this. And we're back, 1st and 10 for the Reavers. They're going to get the ball on the Kilgore 21. Hand off to a new running back. Same result as Maximo Vasquez takes the handoff and is near first down yardage. A gain of, looks like a 7-yard gain.
Yeah, just back to what they started with earlier in the game. You know, no different in concept, just a nice little inside zone.
Kern still at quarterback. He was going to keep it himself. Flags fly. Just under 10 minutes left in the fourth. False start, so 5 yards back for the Reavers. So they'll try it again. Back to the 19. Kearns looks to the sideline. You can see the field goal kicker trying to get warmed up for a potential attempt at 50. They'll go to the air. That was batted down at the line of scrimmage. Incomplete.
Yeah, I don't know if they were true play action there or if that was actually an RPO. He tried to go to that slot slant a little bit like they did on that last touchdown down here in the other end zone. And they had a run through from the linebacker, and he ended up getting a piece of that quarterback's arm, I think, and knocked that ball off course.
Lucci Fedoni into the game, the slot over at the left. He's an alumni of Lewis Central High School, where we're playing this game. And that time Kearns just keeps it himself. Bringing up 4th down, and now in to try a field goal is Max Bartachek. He's already made one from 30. This one will be from 37. Has plenty of leg. And it's no good. Stays 47-0. 8:59 to go. And Kilgore offense coming back on. Trying to find a way to get on the board.
Yeah,
get a few positives to go home. A long bus ride.
That's where you 100% you change your objective. Your objective when you got here was to try to put yourself in the national championship game, and now it has definitely refocused to let's get some points and not leave here getting shut out.
Chance to let some of the underclassmen develop here and against as good a competition as they've seen this year. Could help some players for the future. Welch with the give. Nifty running by I think that's Tanner Harrison,
Run there by number 23.
who's just listed as an athlete, doesn't even have a position.
That's when you know you're good at everything.
You could see it though, nearly broke around the outside, picks up 8 on the carry. 2nd and 2. And now keeping it himself and kind of laying the wood on the
First down for the Reavers.
end of the run. A 7-yard run by Mason Welch.
It's a little power read that's become kind of popular here in the last couple of years is you bring the jet sweep across or you do it with an offset tailback. And you run just that inside power. That way you don't have to kick out the power. It's just kind of an offset of the old two-back power. But highly effective, especially if you have an athletic quarterback.
7th first down of the day for Kilgore. Welch will give once more. That time not able to get to the outside. Too many black jerseys in the way. Led by Cameron Doan.
Loss of the play brings up 2nd down.
And they tried it again with Tanner Harrison. Nowhere to go. A loss of a yard. It's 2nd and 11. Yardage 379 to 116 in favor of Iowa Western as Kilgore tries to, again, just find a way to get some offense going here.
And that stat is very indicative of how obviously this game has gone.
Flags flying all over, another late.
It's very difficult to have 47 points off of 370 yards of total offense. It is a very difficult to do. So that's very indicative of how the field position of Iowa Western's starting position all day long has just been so good. And again, that has a lot to do with the meltdowns that Kilgore has had on special teams where they had some short fields, a couple turnovers that should give them short fields, and even just some of those 3 and outs where they were getting the ball at midfield. And again, 47 points on 370 yards total offense is an astounding number.
A defensive touchdown and a safety also part of that, and there was a disqualification.
I think we now have one of the Reavers that will not be playing in the national championship. And that's where cooler heads should prevail. There's generally never a situation on a football field that you should get so mad that you cost yourself an opportunity to do something that, guys have worked so hard all summer and all season. You've been practicing 3 and 4 days a week. You're in meetings all the time. You're in weights. You're doing all of these things, and you get in one heated argument, and all of a sudden, bang, you're not playing in the national championship now.
1st and 10 is the result up to the 49. Welch fires, had an open receiver with room to run, as that was Zeke Freeman, the intended target. Would have probably been able to turn that up for a 1st down and more. We're down to 6:45 to go in this 4th quarter.
That was one of the first times really all day that Kilgore has had a guy out in space with not a lot of defenders around him, and just missed on the throw there a little bit. And play clock ticking down here. They're going to need to hurry.
Welch showing some nice moments running. Has missed some passes, but also completed. Running a little option there. He crosses midfield to about the 48 before he's taken down by Cameron Dunn.
Little speed option. I'm a big fan of speed option. Well, that used to be one of our staples for outside run game. We gained a lot of yardage over a lot of years on speed option.
Clock continues to melt away into Reavers territory for the first time in some time. That was maybe early, the last time I remember them in Reavers territory. They had it down to like the 5 and weren't able to convert. The big turnover on downs was where I really feel like the momentum of this game flipped. And there's a nice pass, complete for a first down.
Yeah, that drive that Kilgore worked down to inside that 5-yard line seems like 100 years ago.
Michael Phoenix with a nice catch right there. We're now under 6 to play. Tackled inbounds, so the clock continues to move. Play action, Welch zipped too high, intended for Freeman, incomplete. Now we're under the lights.
And I think that was just true play action there. I don't think they RPO'd that, but similar to what Iowa Western ran earlier, and has ran twice today, just nice little slant, trying to get one-on-one with the safety, freeze those linebackers so you can get over the top, and the ball just kind of sailed on them a little bit. And
both these teams with active players excelling in the National Football League. Andrew Van Ginkel on the Miami Dolphins from Iowa Western, and Lane Johnson, a lineman on the Philadelphia Eagles from Kilgore. And there's a nice deep ball. That's complete, and that's in for a touchdown. And Kilgore on the board. Welch to Bradley. Alden Bradley. His 5th touchdown of the season. And there's a nice little silver lining for the Rangers.
yeah, nobody likes to get shut out. And that one was straight play action. And they worked a little outside route there, and I think caught him in cover 2, and the safety just couldn't get there, come off the hash. Usually that ball needs to be thrown in that 18 to 22-yard kind of area right up that sideline, and I think they're a little deeper than that, and the safety just couldn't get there and went for the ball instead of the tackle as well, and that allowed Kilgore to get on the board.
They have Baldazzo to kick it. Looks good, is good, and with that, we'll take a timeout. We'll be back after this here on ESPN+. And welcome back. 41-yard touchdown pass from Mason Welch to Alden Bradley gets Kilgore on the board. 176 through the air for Iowa Western, 162 for Kilgore. We talked about where the stats tell the exact story. That's one where maybe the stats are a little misleading, but
we're going to get an onside kick here. We're going to get the most exciting play in football right here.
And they go for it, and that is picked up by Iowa Western, who starts to return it and takes it all the way down to the 25. Are you allowed to return that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So they do. Almost breaks a tackle and takes it to the house.
Yep, that is a live kickoff return. And that has happened many times in history. You know, the kickoff team has all their guys out by the sideline because you're trying to get that second and third big hop out by the sideline. So if it doesn't happen and one of those guys gets a candy hop in the middle like just happened there's not a lot of defenders there to make that tackle. Normally you have a couple guys from the backside that come and fill because you're only allowed to have 6 and 4. So you have 2 guys coming from the backside that are safeties, and luckily the safety made that tackle.
That was Mark Ard Jr. on the return. Now a handoff. Twisting forward for a gain of 5 or 6 was Vasquez. And we talked with both coaches, found it a little bit interesting that, you know, the transfer portal in the NCAA has really changed the way that junior college coaches have had to function.
It's changed everything about the junior college aspect. You know, guys that we were putting in Division I every year, probably in this day and age, might not get Division I opportunities because they're all just recruiting each other's players. You know, there's some 300 or 400 people already in the transfer portal, and all of those guys will end up potentially at schools before they will get to some junior college recruiting now. The top tier guys in junior college will still get their opportunities, but it's going to trickle down your roster a little bit. But yeah, Coach Strohmeyer and I, in our discussion, talked about it quite a bit, and it's affected the depth, and it's affected the big-time players. You know, for years and years and years, because of the transfer rules at Division I, if you wanted to leave a school, you had to go junior college, graduate to go back to Division I. So those guys were forced to come here. So you would have guys leaving every major school in America, you know, Miami, Florida State, Texas. And now the fact is it's open transfers, it's open recruiting, it's NIL money. You know, guys are getting millions of dollars to transfer. Now it's open in the public. I can just go and try to take your player from you while he's on your team and offer him $1 million if he'd like to transfer. And, but all of that has affected some of the quality of athletes that we can get at the junior college level as well. Doesn't necessarily affect some of the depth of the roster. It just affects some of the big-time athletes that used to play at this level.
Vasquez picks up the first down. What I thought was particularly interesting talking to both coaches is that they said that they're not getting some of the transfer athletes, but they're getting better high school kids.
Yes, because that also the transfer portal has affected high school recruiting. And because some of the bigger schools are going to take, you know, the truth of the matter is that the highest dropout rate at the 4-year level is 18-year-olds. So, you know, taking a high school kid is not always a great odds on success if you're at the 4-year level. So if you could take a guy that's been at a Division I school playing for 2 years, and maybe he's not getting enough playing time where he's at, and you can take that guy, you know he's diligent, he's going to show up to meetings, he's going to handle himself well on campus and in the public, you know, he's going to go to class, he's going to get good grades, and he's a good enough player for what you need. You'll take that kid before you take an 18-year-old because you don't know what that guy's going to do when he gets out of mom and dad's house, and you just never know what people are going to do when you get them onto a college campus. Sometimes they go haywire. So it has a direct effect on high school recruiting, which in turn has allowed some of these junior colleges to get better high school players than they used to be able to get their hands on.
The pass from Kearns incomplete. 3rd and 12. We're now under 2 minutes to go. 1:52. Iowa Western is going to advance to take on East Mississippi in the national championship game in Arkansas on the 13th. The drama of this was pretty much over after the 28-0 first quarter from Iowa Western.
Yeah, I think
Kilgore again, a great season. A lot to be proud of as Kearns bobbles that, tries to make something out of nothing, will lose a couple more yards. And
I think the air got sucked out of the room right after that 95-yard touchdown was kind of when you felt that monumental kind of shift of the way that this football game was going to play out.
And they'll try another field goal. Bar to check. A timeout called by Iowa Western, the second time on a special teams play that those backup units just don't have exactly what they need. As you mentioned, don't get a lot of practice reps. A minute 4 remaining.
Clearly, Coach Strohmeyer is not cold.
You know, they're used to it up here.
Yes. You're not quite as cold when you're up by 40 also.
I came down here from Minnesota. This ain't so bad.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
Coach Strohmeyer's home territory. But again, just an absolute impressive effort from Iowa Western. And a chance. It's really hard to win back-to-back national championships in anything, but especially in junior college where you're churning. I mean, your goal is to help them transfer to other schools.
Yeah, correct.
And
you turn your roster over.
To have the consistency that they have and to be right back where they were last year, just so impressive.
We actually now have the offense out on the field here and not the field goal team.
And they'll give a direct snap.
And that should end it.
And that should take us
Not here to give you the ball carrier. Rangers take
down
over
to
on downs.
58 seconds. The Rangers take over on downs.
Should
They
get
can
2 snaps here, and that ought to do her.
It'll be interesting to see what they do here. If they want to try and take another shot, go for a big play, or just take a kneel down and get back into the locker room. Again, we mentioned it before. They've had a phenomenal year, but Iowa Western has been the superior team here today. And they're going to play for the national championship for the second consecutive year. They won it all last year, beating Hutchinson. They'll just hand it off. Again, probably need one more snap. As Harrison the carry.
They haven't ran the 40-second clock yet. There it goes. So, yeah, we will need one more snap.
Aaron down on the stop for the Reavers.
And a lot of credit to all the fans on both sides of the bleachers that have stuck it out this entire time. Sure, they'll be ready for a heated seat on their ride home. Zone read. And it's enough for a first down, but that should take us down to zeros. And that is your final score, 47-7. Iowa Western defeats Kilgore to go to the national championship, where they will take on East Mississippi. And Gary, we talked about it throughout the game. Just wall-to-wall domination in every facet of the game from the Reavers.
It was a complete victory. Offensively, they were able to establish the run. They were able to establish both lines of scrimmage, which is important. But early on, kind of did what they wanted. Ran the ball well up the middle. Set up a couple, big plays early. That opening drive where they, did the pump and go. And got that freebie just to get up 7. And they had a couple of unique wrinkles in what they did. They had a couple new series that Coach didn't tell us directly about, but said they had a couple things that they felt matched up real well. And it's just some things that they felt that they could attack the defense with, which they did. And again, once they got up 2 or 3 scores, it pretty much was over at that point. But more importantly than anything is they held that explosive Kilgore offense to essentially 0 points. They ended up getting one late, but I mean, they at one point in the end of the third quarter had negative 10 yards rushing. So I don't know if we're getting feedback over, but the stadium speaker is right in our ear here, so it's.
Well, for Gary Thomas, I'm Logan Anderson saying so long from Council Bluffs. Final score 47-7. All games airing on the ESPN networks are streaming live and archived on the ESPN app. This has been a presentation of ESPN.